Let me ask y'all something right quick. You ever had a rough week? You know, the ones when you're not at your best fully, and you finally say it out loud, not dramatic, not blaming anybody, just honest. Like, hey, I'm not at 100% right now. And somehow that created a new problem. Now there's tension, now there's distance, and now you're managing a fallout just because you were trying to be honest. And now you're sitting there like, I shouldn't have said nothing in the first place. And the next time something comes up, that's exactly what you do. You don't say a word. A lot of people don't talk about that part, but today we are. Welcome back to Word 4, y'all. I'm Damien J Branch, episode 13. And this one, I actually lived this one. I'm not reading this from a chapter somewhere because this conversation, it just keeps popping up. We need to open up more. We need to be more expressive. We need to talk about what we're actually going through. And I agree with those things, right? But nobody tells you what happens when you actually do open up and it backfires on you because you reach out for the connection, right? And you get back confusion instead. When you open up and somehow the room just gets colder, not warm. And then you walk away thinking maybe vulnerability just isn't for me. But that's exactly what we're tapping into today. So let's get into it. All right, let me paint this picture for you real quick. You're having a rough week. Life is just throwing you a whole bunch of combinations. And you're trying to hold it together like you always do, because that's what we have to do. But eventually you hit a wall, right? And then you say, all right, I'm going to speak about this out loud. But not dramatically, no big buildup involved, just honesty. And you say, hey, I'm not at 100% right now. And instead of that landing like support, it lands like a grenade that you didn't even know you were holding. Now it's quiet. Now it's weird. Now the energy shifted and you don't even know why for real. And before we go deep into this, I'm going to just say this clearly. No, this is not about just romantic relationships. This happens between friends, between siblings, between parents and kids, your coworkers even, in any room where connection actually matters to you. The setting changes, the faces might change, but that sting still hits the same. Like you say something real out loud, and then the room just punishes you for it. So you learn fast that honesty has a tax, and eventually you just stop paying it. That tax doesn't always show up right away. Sometimes it's subtle. You try it once, it goes sideways, so you file that away, and then you try it again later. Different day, different situation, but you get the same result. And now your mind just starts building up a pattern, right? You're not even really choosing to shut down. You're learning like when you touch a hot stove. Your nervous system says, we're not going there again. But the problem is your nervous system doesn't know the difference between that situation was wrong for you or your honesty just had bad timing. So it tells you to don't say anything anymore. And over time, you just go there with everybody the same way. And what makes this worse is what happens right after that. The silence, not the peaceful kind, the awkward kind, the kind where people are having two different conversations in their own heads. You're thinking, what did I say? How did I say it? And was the timing just off? And the other person is trying to figure out if they're supposed to be worried, defensive, or responsible for fixing something in your life right now. Two people, same moment, completely different movies are playing. And neither one of y'all is saying the things that could fix it right now because neither one of y'all were taught how to do that. And here's where it breaks down, right? Not always bad intentions, not always someone being heartless. Sometimes it's the same words just being landed differently, depending on who's receiving them, right? And what you meant was, I'm not asking you to fix this for me. I just need you to be around for a little while. But what they actually heard was, something is wrong and I need to fix this crisis right now. Same sentence, completely different downloads. And that's not always a you problem. Sometimes it's just a translation problem. You came with your truth, but then they received it with their own filter, their past, their anxiety, their need to fix things, their fear of doing something wrong in real time. And now you just feel rejected when really they might just be confused. And that's why people go quiet in rooms full of people that actually care about them, because they never figured out how to speak each other's language. And the other person really never understood how to hear theirs. All right, so if you made it this far, hit subscribe, because that lets me know that I'm hitting the right notes. All right, let's get back to it. And this part I had to sit with personally. A lot of us, especially men, we're wired to be the steady ones, the one that people bring their things to, not the one who brings things to people. So when that role flips and then you're the one that actually needs something, the whole system is like a glitch. It's like being the person that everybody depends on, and then now you're suddenly the person that needs somebody. That shit feels strange for you and for the people that are used to seeing you be strong. Think about a first responder, right? Everybody expects them to always stay calm in the moment, decisive, in control, and that's their role, right? So when that same person sits down looking defeated, the people around them may not know how to read that. Not because they don't care, it's because the signal has always said everything is handled. And now the signal is just different. And nobody was prepared for that version of the story. The cruel part to that is while the other person is trying to recalibrate, you're sitting there feeling like saying something will become a mistake. So you pull back and you lock it down and you tell yourself, I'll just handle this myself. But that's not always strength. It looks like composure on the outside, but it's going to cost you everything on the inside. And when silence becomes your default mechanism, something starts to shift. You become a little less present. You become a little more guarded. You look a little less invested in the outcome for real. And the other people will feel that. They might not be able to name it, but they still feel the distance. And now they're wondering what's really wrong. But they don't ask you because they don't want to start something else. And you don't say anything because the last time you did, it went sideways. Now you got two people in the same room, physically close, emotionally miles apart. That's not always a relationship that blew up. Sometimes it's just a relationship that quietly drifted. Not from a big fight, but from 100 small wrong decisions to stay quiet. And those are all harder to come back from because there's no real moment to point at, just a very slow fade that both people felt, but neither one of them had a name for. But here's a part that I want to be honest about. Sometimes the problem isn't what's being said. It's actually what you brought into the room when you said it. Because if it came out in frustration, tense, with a little edge to it, even if your words were calm, the energy told a different story. And people respond to energy first. Words are actually just subtitles. So they're not hearing, hey, I need support. They're feeling something's about to go left right now. And then they back up. And now you feel abandoned. And they feel like they just protected themselves. And both feelings can be totally real and honest because you just walked in with more weight than the moment could actually hold. And that changed whatever was possible before you can even open up to have your first sentence. That's not blame, that's just awareness. But awareness is how you start fixing things. So, how do you get what you need without triggering the opposite? And here's what I had to learn. It's not about saying less. It's not about hiding what you feel. It's about giving the other person a landing strip before your emotional plane decides to touch down. You can never land a plane on a runway that isn't ready for you. It never matters how skilled the pilot is. It doesn't matter how important your cargo is. If there's no clear space to receive it, something's going to break upon impact. Most people go into vulnerable conversations like they're trying to land without calling ahead. You just drop the weight and hope the other person catches it. but they didn't even know you were pulling in. So what felt like honesty on your end, it feels like a huge impact on theirs. But the fix is simpler than what people think. Instead of saying, I'm having a bad week, things are frustrating, I don't even really know what's wrong with me, try this. Yo, I'm a little off right now. I don't need you to fix anything right now. I just need your presence for a minute. The second version gives people instructions. It removes all the guesswork. And it tells the other person, I'm not handing you this problem to solve. I'm just asking you to be present while I solve it. That will hit totally different. You lead with what you need before you unpack what you feel. Not because your feelings don't matter. They do. But because feelings without a landing strip will crash. And then both people are left cleaning up a mess that they didn't even want to have happen. And let me be clear, right? Before I close this out, this isn't a men versus women thing. This isn't about who fails who first. Everybody enters a moment with their own history, their own writing, their own relationship where vulnerability had to cost them something. And if you don't factor those things in, you'll keep interpreting reaction for rejection when really it could just be confusion where rejection's closed. You could be in a room full of people who really love you and still feel completely alone if nobody helps bridge that gap. That gap is the real thing to work on, not the other person. A lot of people don't stay quiet because they don't have something to say. They stay quiet because the last time they said something, it made things worse. So they learn not vulnerability is wrong, but that vulnerability without the right language, it will create more distance. And that's the real cost, not the silence itself. It's what the silence is protecting. So maybe it's not that you can't open up. Maybe nobody handed you the right tools to figure it out. And maybe the people in your life, your partner, your friends, your family, maybe they do care about you. They just don't know how to meet you at your door yet. That gap where the person's trying to say something and the person's trying to receive it. That's where a lot of relationships quietly break down. Not from a fight, not from betrayal, just because they never learned how to speak each other's language when it mattered the most. And the good news is that's learnable on both sides in any kind of relationship that matters to you. But somebody has to be willing to go first. And if you made it to the end of this episode, it's probably you. If this hit, share this with somebody that's been on either side of that conversation. Partner, a friend, a sibling, somebody that you've been in that gap with. Because this conversation needs to reach both rooms. Follow Word Forward on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Drop a comment and tell me this. Have you ever felt like opening up just made things worse? I want to hear that from both sides, and I'm going to respond to a few of those. The inner circle's in the description if you want to take this conversation a little bit further. This is Word Forward, y'all. I'll see you on the next one. And if this episode connected with you, you'll get a lot out of my book, Built Different, The Mindset Growth Guide. This book is really the foundation of a lot of the mindset work that I talk about here. It's about growth, clarity, and learning how to move different in a life that just keeps testing you. Links in the description if you want to tap in and grab you one.